I know there was zillions of things you could be doing right now. There's a Cardinals game going on. Somebody told me that Macy's having a family and friends sale. So there were so many things you could be doing. I am so honored that you chose to spend part of your evening with me. I'm LaTisha Smith, and I'm going to talk to you today a little about some of the things that I really love and care about, which is life, literacy, leadership, and then just having respect for all people. So this may not be necessary for most, but I know that this, for some of us, is our first physical activity after having 2 years of being isolated only around people that really know us. So just want to make sure I set a couple of norms for us for our evening today. We're all here in a place of learning, so we're going to make sure that we respect the learning space and that everyone, wherever they are in the learning space. So the conversation that we'll have today, if somebody might not be where you are, and we hope that you respect where they are in their walk. Disagree with humility. We want no one's dignity to be invaded in this space. So be hard on ideas, but not on people that's here. We want you to be present and engaged. So if you came here just to sit and listen to me talk, you'll get a little bit of that, but there's going to be also times for us to engage in conversation with each other and for you to be able to do an activity. So sit back and be engaged and present. And then hopefully you'll enjoy the experience. We hope this is not one of those stuffy events you're like, oh my God, I was so bored. We hope that you laugh, that you get to interact with other individuals, that you get to really share some of your thoughts around some of the topics and questions that we'll ask today. And then above all things, we ask that you share. It's not beneficial to keep knowledge to yourself. So if you hear a quote, you meet someone that you feel can be a blessing to someone else, we ask you to share that information, share that contact, anything you can share and not hold all that to yourself. So a little bit about me. I'm an educator, I'm a mother, I'm a writer, I'm a volunteer, I'm a believer in the greater of humanity. I know that sometimes we get a little bogged down because society seems to kind of be in a place where people are just not nice. And sometimes that can make us feel a certain type of way, but I still believe in the good of most people. And I just believe that good prevails even in the time of just things that make us sad and just cause us to kind of pause. So that's me. I'm the second oldest of 9 children. So yes, my mom did have 9 kids. Second oldest, as I said. There are 7 girls and 2 boys, in case anybody was wondering about the breakdown. I'm a first generation college student, so I was the first in my family to go to college and get a bachelor's degree. And I'm the first in my family to go to doctor, but there are a couple that's coming behind me, so pretty soon we'll have a tribe of doctors in my family, and I'm thinking about that. I'm a mother to 2 beautiful kids and 2 teens, I said. One of them in the back, but she was gonna have a fit if I told you all, but you can look at her, y'all. I love embarrassing them the way they embarrass me all these years, so pay back, and I pay for it all the time. 16 and 15, my son's already driving. My daughter reminded me that my son was driving by the time he was 16, so she passed her permit test. So I get constant reminders that she's ready to drive too. You're gonna drive yourself to. So I've been involved in education nearly all of my life, and I say that I've enjoyed nearly every moment of it. It was pretty tough my first year. I was in a self-contained behavior disorders classroom, and all the boys, of course, were taller and bigger than me, but I made them think that I was tougher than all of them, so it worked for me. So, but it was pretty tough my first year, but I have not left my love of teaching, my love of kids, my love of teenagers, so that's something that's going to stay with me. I'm excited about all the possibilities that education and for my writing journey has led me, where it can lead me. Being able to share an audience like this, I think it's just a phenomenal experience, and I'm glad that you're sharing with me today. I'm a proud product of the Rockwood School District. I see one of my Rockwood classmates in here, so I'm so excited to see her come in the door. Really often when I tell my story about what encouraged me and inspired me, I talk about the top of my family and the times I got to go home and just experience what it was to be like in the Tyler family. That we were sitting around the table, eating dinner, having a conversation. I thought that was rich because it was unlike things that I had saw in my experience coming from the city. And I asked her father that, and I remember him telling me a story about how he was not rich. He invested in his education, and that education allowed him to afford the things that I saw that he was able to provide his family. After that conversation, I was sold, and I knew that I was going to invest in my education because I knew the things and the possibilities that it could have for me and my family. So why are we here today? Well, you might not have known this about me. You know that I've written a book. You may not have known that I've written several books. So that's kind of the thing that keeps me up at night, the thing that I enjoy doing. I love putting my thoughts on paper and just seeing them come to life when illustrators are able to bring those pictures to life. So I've written several books, one that we'll talk about today. Most of my books are children's books. The very first book, though, that I've ever written was How You Get Them is How You Keep Them. It was a kind of saucy love triangle. And what I really realized after I wrote that book was, number one, I didn't want to write another chapter book. Very early. But then number two, I realized that I was perpetuating some of the stereotypes that people have about, African Americans and African Americans in their parenting styles and skills, African Americans in relationships. And so I realized that was something that I didn't want to revisit. So shortly after that, I wrote my first children's book, which you'll see on the table here, Mama Always Knows Best. And after that, I was sold. I knew that that was the type and the level of books that I wanted to write. All of my books have a theme or they focus on a particular character trait. But the thing is, I want kids, when they're reading my book, or adults, to walk away with something more than what they came to the story with. So either they're inspired to do something around their goal setting, they're inspired to build relationships, they're inspired to be nice to people in the world. So I make sure that they all have some connection, that you don't just walk away like, oh, that was a good story. You walk away either feeling inspired or feeling moved to do something differently in your life. So that's that. So we're here today because I believe that books are such a good start for, especially some of those difficult conversations. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to broach certain topics, and sometimes you may need some kind of inlet of how do I really have this conversation? How do I really say this? How do I get past what I'm thinking or feeling or what I think others are thinking and feeling? And I always believe that books are such a good start for having those conversations. So that is why I've said so much already. I think writing, for those of you who may be thinking about it, or encouraging your kids, or encouraging your students, it's such a way for us to document things. It's for us to be able to pass information. It is for entertainment purposes. It can help kids get into art because book is not just about writing. Somebody has to bring that writing to life. So you have kids who are very visual, who are very artistic. Writing can be also an outlet for them to help encourage somebody else to get their books brought to life by being the pictures or the person who captures those pictures and those stories. So it can have so many other outlets. And I even tell kids, those who are interested in technology, there's some people who are doing podcasts. They're the ones that are interviewing the people that's doing the writing. They're the ones that's putting together these great visual 3-minute videos and all of that. So there's always a place, if you're not doing the writing directly, that you can be indirectly involved in the writing process. So encourage your kids to explore all those different outlets, whether it's your own kid, a family, or students if you're in education. So my reading and writing experiences opened my mind to the power of words. And since I learned that, I've been writing ever since, because I know that words can either encourage and inspire, or they can defeat and dissuade. And so I'm always trying to be mindful of the words that I put out, because I wanted to do the earlier and not the latter. I never want anything that I write, anything that I do or say to defeat or dissuade anyone. So we all have to remember the power of our words when we're putting them out there. Also, reading, writing, and literacy have they allow people to open up their dreams. As I told you earlier, when I had my experience with the Toppins, I engrossed myself in books after that because it opened up to me a world that I wasn't used to, that I wasn't familiar with. I went to so many different countries in books. I met so many different people in books. I met people who weren't like me, people I wanted to be like, people I wanted to know their stories. And so reading and writing allows that for individuals. It allows them to have worlds and experiences beyond what they may have in their immediate environment. And we have to be able to expose individuals to that so they know that there's differences around them, differences outside of what they may see on a regular basis in their short, connected world with just mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin. So also my journey into writing helped me shape who I am. Because again, writing let me know that I was more than what my surroundings was. Yes, I was part of the transportation program. I was bused from the inner city to a county school, but I was more than that. I was more than the environment that I went back to on a regular basis. I was more than just the single mom that I love dearly. And it wasn't a slight to my mom. It just made me realize that I wanted more for me, and I wanted more for me because I felt like it would allow me to do more for her. So it really shaped who I was and who I became, and the drive that was in me just to do something more and to be something better. So I believe books and representation in books is important for all audiences. So I talked a little bit about representation in books because some of us are either minorities, we raise minority kids, we interact with minorities on a regular basis, and all of that. So I think the representation in books is important, and I hope that you are taking opportunities to expose children to that different representation in books. And I say that's important because the world is represented. The world is not just made of one particular person, one particular personality, one particular type of person. So we have to make sure that we are exposing and representing what's represented in our world to ourselves, our children, and each other. I said representation in books, especially when it comes to life and stories about people of color, are critical for dispelling biases, stereotypes, and misconceptions. Because sometimes what people think and believe about a person is only what they've heard, maybe sometimes what they saw depicted in a movie. It could be something that they've read, but if that's their own experiences, then they base their opinions on those things. And if they're not exposed to different literature, different experiences, different voices, and then that's what they'll be stuck with. And sometimes that's what leads to some of the biases and the challenges that we have with meeting one another and connecting with one another, because we're still basing our beliefs on just those limited experiences that we have. And also, I feel representation for people of color allows them to surpass some of the perceptions they have of themselves. Sometimes when you talk to some African American males, you will hear them say things like they didn't expect to live, or they don't expect to live past a certain age. And that's really disheartening to hear, because sometimes we expose them to things when they see the accomplishments of others, when they can see themselves in books or believe themselves in stories like, oh my gosh, that particular character or that particular person had beginnings like me. And if they were able to overcome, if they were able to surpass, then why not me? So those are some of the experiences that books can provide for individuals that can help them see beyond their circumstances. That yes, you live in this environment. Yes, these are the parents that you have. Yes, these are experiences that you know, but it doesn't have to be that way always. And so I believe that representation in books is critical for us to dispel some of those things that are plaguing our society. So, having said that, I would like to share some of my writings with you. And I'm not going to go into each book and tell you how they can help you have different conversations. I do have that information if somebody wants it, but because of our time today, I'm going to limit that conversation, but I can't share that openly with you. But we are going to have particular conversations about my newest book in particular, and just some of the questions that it brings to me, and then in turn some questions that I'm going to bring to you. So in looking at my audience, I know that there are several educators in here. We have parents, we have students, and all of you are involved in circumstances that cause you to have an attorney. You know, we have an attorney. So you're involved in circumstances that require you to talk, to discuss, to interact. And so after I talk on this first slide, I'm going to turn it over to you, because there are some conversations and discussions that I feel that arise from this book. And then I want to know some answers, because sometimes I lay in bed, the things that we talk about that keep us up at night, and I wonder how we can impact further some of the questions that I have on my mind. And then I realized you don't have to answer these questions alone. You have an entire community of teachers, educators, friends, supporters that can help you dive into some of these questions and maybe find some solutions that can realistically be implemented in some of our schools, if not our homes, if not our communities, if not our churches. So, and the people carry signs. So I'm going to get into a little bit about how this book came about. But what this book is trying to do is to broach the sensitive subject about the kids. So this is to talk about a particular sensitive subject, but hopefully it will give you the courage or the ability to take a story, any story, and be able to have conversations that you want to have with individuals that you feel it's important to have those conversations with. So this was really initially meant to provide younger audiences with information around the Black Lives Matter movement, and designed to raise in our youth awareness around things about race, equity, justice, and more importantly, hope. So this book wasn't meant to be a downer. It was actually meant to be more inspirational, so they can raise some of those things, some of those thoughts, some of those questions in our youth. Because if I have to bet on anyone, our youth versus adults, my bet is always on our youth. And I feel like if we are going to eradicate some of the things that we wish to see done away with, if we're going to solve some of the social ills that are now plaguing society, if we're going to have a more racially equitable society and community, it's going to be the youth that's going to help us solve those problems and make those solutions that's going to put us there. So I love you adults, but I'm betting on the kids. And so I wanted to be able to start having some of these conversations, and I felt like this book was a way to easily introduce some of those topics I talked about to them. So I'm going to introduce myself first, and then I'll allow you to ask me questions as well at the end. But just to give you some thought process around this book. So you may ask how this book came about. And it was at the heart of just everything that was going on racially with George Floyd. And every morning when I turned on the TV, you would see all these just these news reports going on that were showing things about how people was reacting, not even just in the United States, but internationally. And then one morning in particular, when I turned it on, there was this scene of so many people. It just, you could see for miles away, there was people, they were protesting again because, they were upset and they wanted their voices to be heard, and they wanted things to change. And in this particular scene that caught my attention, there was a father. Oh, I can't even say it was a father, there was a man. And sitting on the neck of this man was a child who couldn't have been any more than about 4 or 5 years old. And you could see the hurt, the anguish, the emotion in this adult's face. And then when I looked up at the child, he had equally as much emotion. And I started thinking, like, wait a minute, this child, is he thinking the same thing as this adult? He can't be having the same experiences. But then I started thinking, I wonder what conversations they're having with him. I wonder what conversation they had with him even leading up to this environment that he's in. I wonder what he's thinking up here in the air, looking as far as his eyes can see and seeing all these people, some of them singing, some of them chanting, some of them crying, some of them yelling, they're holding signs, they're moving, they're walking. What is this experience like with this child? And that just hit me. And I laid in bed and I said, who's having conversations with our children? Who's talking to them about these things that's riddling our TV? I said, I know that there's young people that's riding up and down the streets with their parents or walking and they're seeing these signs that say Black Lives Matter. Do they know what that means? Do they know why some of their neighbors even have those signs out? Do they know why everybody seems so tense? And so that's when it hit me. I said, this is your next book. This is your project, whether it's popular or unpopular. Somebody needs to start having this conversation and getting our youth to understand the climate that is around them now, because if they don't know about it, how can they change it? Because again, I told you, my belief is the things that we're going to change in society, in this world, is going to come from the young ones like this one is sitting in front of me. And so I bet on them all the time. So that is kind of how the book came about. I knew that I had to try to find some format in order to start telling this story, to have kids start having these conversations. So what are my qualifications to speak on this topic? There are none. I'm a parent, I'm a concerned citizen, I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I'm someone who cares. I care about kids. I care about what their outcomes can be. I care about even kids I don't know. I don't have to know a kid to love a kid. I feel like when I ride down the streets and I just see some of our kids who look so lost, when I see them walking, I was with my friend when they just came from dinner and there was a group of kids and she said, they look like they're about to get in some trouble if they haven't already gotten into some. And I said, yes, but who's going to stop them? What are we doing to help, to make sure that they don't have that path? And sometimes I think it starts with a good conversation. Sometimes they just don't know. Some kids have never had anybody to sit down with them and have an adult conversation, to discuss things with them, to discuss how they're feeling, to discuss their emotions. And so my appeal to those in this room is that group can be us. We can start to do that thing, not just with students, but with our own kids, with people in our family, with those that's around us. And so I'm hoping that starts with us. So I don't have any qualifications. There's no certificate in writing books, no certificate in advocacy, no certificate in, one in racial equality. It's just, we have to have a passion and a desire to do it. So that's what qualifies me, and that's why I wrote this book. So what are some myths about this book that I want to dispel? So we joke about it, and some people say, your book's going to be on the banned book list before it even started. And I agree, and I said, that could be a good thing, though, because I wanted to raise enough curiosity, enough conversation, enough just intrigue to say, you know what, let me go, because I think that book should be on the banned list. And I say, I hope before you put it on there that you pick it up and read it yourself. One of the myths that's about this book that people think just from looking at the cover and seeing the signs that Black Lives Matter, that this is going to be a book that's going to be some kind of negative push against police, or something to make, a lot of times I know my Caucasian friends that feel like, that's not me. I don't feel like I don't want to be beat down because that's not what I carry, that's not my same thought process. Some of those people have those same beliefs, that's not my beliefs. And so this is not an indictment against anyone who's not of color. And those are some of the myths that I want people to know about this book. It's really meant to be an inspiration. It's really meant to be a conversation starter. It's really meant to try to move people to do something differently, not just around race, but around whatever it is that you want to advocate for, that you stand for, that has meaning for you. What are some barriers that you experienced in writing and or publishing this book? So the writing process in writing this book was actually easy. There was always so much motivation and inspiration on TV, especially you heard people saying negative things and just people that felt like, you know, certain people deserve to have certain things happen to them because either they had a criminal record or, you know, maybe because they used substance abuse and things like that. For me, a life is a life. And so, and that's what I wanted to portray in this. A life is a life. It's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about us valuing the life that we have with each other and valuing humanity as a whole. So my barriers really have come not in writing and publishing a book, but have really come after the book. I've had teacher friends who said, man, I really would love to have your book in my classroom, but I might get in trouble. I don't know if my administrator will let me. I don't want the district to be in trouble if I write this book. So that's why we laugh and say, well, yeah, this is the book that got banned before it even got started. But that's the part that saddens me because, you know, what is it that they think about this book that should get you in trouble? What is it they feel that the kids are going to read in this book that they feel like they shouldn't be exposed to it that's going to be harmful to them? Would they think that me as an educator, as a parent, would write or do something that I felt would be harmful to other kids, my kids, your kids? And so those are the things that's been barriers that I feel in this whole writing process with this book. But again, I hope that it brings enough curiosity and intrigue for individuals to read it. And if you're kind of wondering about it, for those of you who may not have purchased the book yet or read the book yet, we're going to read it later on so you'll get a chance to hear it firsthand. And how would you define success with this book, or what do you hope to accomplish? And so, as I've said many times, or several times, even in this conversation, I just want to raise awareness. And again, it's not just awareness around the Black Lives Matter movement, around racial. I want to bring awareness around voice, student voice, advocacy, community advocacy, togetherness, cooperation, all the things that we can do so much powerfully if we did it together, cohesively, that we could ever do apart. I want kids to know that there's ways that they can talk about things and discuss things, and to know and be able to identify that there are individuals that can safely have these types of conversations with. So if I can do anything and say the book would be successful, it would be that. I want this book to kind of start those conversations where people can do so in a safe and trusting environment with people that they feel safe and trust. So now I have some questions that I want to raise to you before we get into the book to kind of whet our appetite around a little bit about what we're here once we actually get into the story, and to give you some motivation when I actually turn you loose in about, we'll have about 10 minutes to work on this activity that will hopefully bring some things to you that you think about some things you may want to actually write and share when we have our opportunity to share in the room in a little bit. So, as I said, the pressure's on. There's teachers in here, legal people, parents, kids who I know y'all talk all day on the phone to each other, on chat and all of that. So I want to raise all the voices in the room. So now my turn to ask you questions. Because then I talk about, what do you think? What is justice? What is justice? Yeah, just speak out.
Oh, well, I think justice, there are a lot of synonyms that I think of when I think of justice. Equity, fairness, and what it actually looks like though, can be different to different people. And of course, I can't answer that. I can only say what it would look like to me, but to you, it might be something different.
Share a little bit more. What does it look like to you?
So for me, I guess justice in the field of this book here, obviously to me is everything is equitable, basically. No one is looking down upon anyone, and no one is putting anyone else on a pedestal, you know, in the same frame. So, briefly, that's what mine is.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Justice.
I think just us, just us getting along. And what has to happen, what has to happen.
Right. Excellent, thank you. So how can an individual make the world a better place? I know we talked about just us doing things collaboratively, and we all hope to get to that point, but what does it look like? How can an individual make the world a better place? Or maybe you can think about something that you're doing as an individual, that you feel that you're doing it because you want to make the world a better place. How can an individual impact? And I see some blue and gold, so I know that we got some service members in here that's always doing something in the community. So I know one of these store roads, the city of Grantford Road, is doing something to
As
get
far
back.
as just standing for what's right and taking a position of standing for, against the odds when we need to make a stand or take a stand.
Right. Sometimes that's not easy to do because sometimes you take a stance, then you have people against you. You have, people at work that look at you differently. But if you feel like you're taking a stance for something that's worth you taking a stand for, then the people that you lost on the path weren't really people that was, meant to be in your circle in the first place. So don't, ever feel bad about losing someone who was lost because they weren't meant to be part of your blessing in the end anyway. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? How can an individual, yes, ma'am.
I would just say exactly what you did. It's the power of the pen, right? Taking your ideas and bringing them to light in a way that gives voice to injustices and brings the kind of rich conversation and dialogue that they're having here this evening. So the power of the pen, as my grandmother would say, right? Bringing light to issues that are prevalent in our society. So thank you, Dr. Smith.
So this book talks about more specifically the Black Lives Matter movement. There are people who criticize that movement. They say that it wasn't necessary, it was overkill. But why was the Black Lives Matter movement important? If somebody was asking why all these signs out here, especially a young person, why do people have all these signs in their yard? Why is this important?
It brings up a topic that people are uncomfortable talking about. It brings up things that need to be addressed and seen, that haven't been addressed, that haven't been seen. And it's, like you were saying earlier, making a difference. Like, people don't want to talk about things that are uncomfortable, but this is a situation that is uncomfortable, but it needs to be addressed, it needs to be handled.
Absolutely. Yes.
I raised my hand.
I appreciate it.
So Black Lives Matter movement is interesting to me because it did spread like all over the world. So you didn't just see it in one area, it took place all over. But for me, I live in South County and it's spread through there as well. People who kind of, talked about it in shadows were suddenly posting it on their Facebook page and planning rallies and, putting signs on their lawns that, let people know how they really felt. So it kind of, that little bit kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes and they felt more comfortable, sharing how they were feeling about it. So
you could see the floodgates of the various levels of disparity between extreme viewpoints on left and right and how it was really necessary to be able to come together to have those discussions. So you could see when we look at justice and the value of human life and the value of everyone's growth and development as a community, as an individual, all are so important. And it just cannot be that myopic that we're just looking at one community, one culture. It's bigger than that, and it has to stay bigger than that. And when we look at our children that we service today, because they will be our voices, is to make sure that they have that power within themselves to move in that direction that's necessary for us all to grow. And I think that's where we as educators, as parents, as people in a community need to really make sure that we do look at someone that way, with equity, with fairness, with compassion, with humility, with being humble to service them, service everyone, service each other. So it's really important to be in that mindset.
Great, thank you, great comments. And I also thought that the movie was important because it did show us that across communities, across families, across races, across traditions, across rivers, valleys, oceans, that people could unite around the cause, that people could come together and show that they were unified on a stance around something. And so that just let me know that if we can unite and be so powerful around this particular incident, this particular topic, then just how powerful could it be if we could unite around some of these other things that we know are plaguing against society, the things, the problems, the challenges that we're having. So it was inspirational for me when I saw the Black Lives Movement, and like you said, how it just ignited and how it spread. It just makes me know that it doesn't just have to be around this something negative. How can we start igniting and spreading some other things that will help us be more united, more equitable, more fair, more peaceful as a community, as a world? Are there ways to advocate beyond protests? You know, there's some people that look down on protests, even peaceful protests. So if so, are there ways to advocate beyond protests? If so, what do you think those are?
So this is a right? This proves that if people can come together around topics that matter, that we can make a difference. We will leave here and do something because of being here. Whether it's call a friend, whether it's say something to a neighbor, whether it's stand up in church, we will all benefit from having come together to share this idea, this concern, and move it forward. So we don't have to protest or something, but we can.
Anybody else? Other ways to advocate? Yes.
I would say breaking the system from the inside, being present in places that often oppress people, and making sure that that voice is being heard, and doing what you can to lead to policy change.
Maybe running for civil office.
Say again.
Maybe running for a civil office.
Yes.
What are other causes that you think are important enough for people, particularly you, to carry signs? What are other causes?
Public education.
Any others?
Food deserts.
Who does?
I like to carry a sign about all these taxes I pay.
I said it all the time. I said, the tax each my chin. And then I said, you gotta pay your tax at the end of it. So if somebody can make a sign that really gets the government to understand, you know, how they're plaguing us, I will help you carry that sign. I appreciate that. So good, even though some of you may have been too, yes, sir.
Climate change.
Climate change, yes, because some people don't think that, you know, there's such thing. But I don't know, when I'm sweating up my makeup, it does, you know, it does exist. I don't know about them. Let's get it back. Yes,
Gun violence.
gun violence, yes. These are all great causes. And again, as I said, one of my hopes for this book is that it gets people to start having conversation about those things. You know, we all carry signs. There's something that we all believe in. And we believe in those things and we support them in different ways. So we're going to get ready to do an activity. We all carry signs. So I know you all walked in here and you thought you saw a church fan. That's not that. And you saw on one side you had an agenda. But on the other side, there's a blank space. Because we all carry signs. It may not necessarily be a physical sign, as somebody's wanted to say, it's not a physical sign necessarily, but today we're going to represent what we carry signs for using a physical sign. And if you see it in your workspace, there's markers, crayons, ink pens, anything for you to create your space. We advocate for causes that are important to us. And some of you named some of those in the room. We are in organizations which we hold membership because they have ideas and principles that we agree with, that we want to move forward, that we want to stand on. We sign petitions. I don't know about you all, but I'm on change.org all the time. And they say, you signed 205 contracts, you know, petitions this year. So because there's causes that I'm like, oh my God, I can support this. I understand. I want to help them in their cause. And then as we manifest in our affiliations, they can be social affiliations, they can be political, our spiritual affiliations. We all doing these things because we're carrying the signs that we believe in, whether it's out in your face or whether it's something that we do internally. So we're going to take an opportunity for you to create on your space. We're going to take a little less than about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come together and we're going to see around the room what are some of those signs that you all carry. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, put 10 minutes on the clock, and I'm going to give you all a chance to create on your space. For some of you who are sitting in the back, you want to come up to a table space and use one of the signs there, please do so. Thank you.
Yeah. You use my Yeah, we shared that. Yes,
We have about 4 minutes left, and we're gonna share. 4 minutes. We're at less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes, and then we're gonna share the power of the throne around all the signs that we carry. The pressure is on.
Well, I'm glad to hear.
Right, we're at last 30 seconds. Those in the back of the room will have a few extra seconds to keep working on those. If you can't hear the front, okay, that is our time. So I'm going to buy you about 10 more seconds here because I'm going to share everybody how this works. So we all talked about how there's collective power. So we're going to share our collective powers in this room. We're going to do a brief introduction because you all got to learn a little bit about me. So now I want the opportunity to learn a little bit about you and what signs you carry. So you're going to start. My name is LaTisha Smith. I'm a mother. I'm an educator. And I carry a sign to stop domestic violence.
Don't laugh at my sign.
No judgment.
So my name is Sakina Ahmed, and I carry a sign to end food hunger, so, and food deserts. So mine says, everyone deserves access to healthy food. You know, food.
Hello, my name is Karen Jones. I am a teacher and my sign says, pay teachers more. Sorry.
My name is Gloria, and I am LaTisha's sister. And, I love all my signs. I said, access to food is for when you go to the grocery store. Shopping is different. I put child abuse and neglect because I'm a foster parent. I also work at a residential home for boys and girls, and a lot of kids there without family. And I put, that too, that's a problem that we have right now.
My name is Jacqueline Person. I'm an educator also with St. Louis Public Schools, and I'm an advocate for public schools. Oh, and respect. I think that, we should get as much respect in the public schools as all the other public schools.
Hi, I'm Tyronica Chambers. I'm also an educator in St. Louis Public. And I got justice for all, and I got at the bottom that change, growth, and fairness.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Hopkins. I'm retired from the school system, so my sign is still reads the same. And that is because I grew up in an era where the injustice was so real. We're rolling, for me, I feel like we're rolling back into the 60s. And I do not want us to negate the fact that Black Lives Matter. I don't want us to be picking pointing cotton because we take it so, we make it it's an everybody thing. It's not. We are the ones that are being mistreated, so I'm still in that place. Okay, thank you.
My name is Regina Ware, and I'm an advocate for children, and my sign says, let me speak without being judged.
Hi, my name is Susan Tobin, and I'm so touched to know that experience was a positive one. And easier voting rights for all, because if we can't vote and express ourselves, then nothing.
My name is Chloe Wood. I'm from Codman, and I'm a student at Old Farnham Elementary School. My saying says saving the planet, and climate change is real and needs to be stopped.
My name's Carrie Todman. I'm Susan's daughter. Business owner and a former lawyer and Tisha's best friend in 4th grade. I'm a little embarrassed because my scales of justice look more like a musical note. So the artist is here. But I said access to legal education. We need lawyers and judges that look like all of us.
Yes.
I'm Beverly Tretter. I'm an educator here at the St. Louis Public Schools. And my sign is be the change. No matter what it is, get out and vote, climate change, carry a sign for Black Lives Matter, educators. I am so tired of people always complaining about things. Don't complain about it. Get out there and change it. Do something about it. So be the change.
My name is Lindsey Stewart. I'm also an educator for SLPS. I did renewable energy, no more plastic, and stop drilling.
Good evening. My name is Linda Haynes Smith. I am a retired educator from the St. Louis Public Schools after 38 years. And I carry the sign God first, because if you put God first, it will direct your morals, your values, and everything you do and stand for. Amen.
My name is Ruby Trice, and I wrote that representation matters. So I sit on boards, I'm in meetings, and, there are just me. And it's, we're still celebrating the first Supreme Court justice as a right? So, but I'm tired of these firsts. There's plenty of room at the table, right? So for me, this is what matters. So if you're on the board or you're on a promotion panel, pick the person that doesn't normally get picked. They're all qualified, equally qualified, more actually than the other one, but we can't talk about it.
I'm Michelle Jones, and I'm an educator as well. I'm on the census thing.
Okay.
I did my parents' taxes, and then go retire. Y'all got paid those taxes? Okay, taxes. I have a question. Do we ever really own our homes or our
No.
cars?
No.
Because with those taxes, you pay, register, so you can drive legally. If you don't pay taxes on your home, they put it up for auction like you get paid for work job.
Yeah.
So, do we ever talk about that?
No.
Okay, so that's my soapbox.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
My name is Katie, and I'm a student.
Yes.
And I'm a, I guess a guy here, yeah, he's good.
Hello, I'm Rachel Johnsonville. I'm in the education field. My side now, I'm in full support, especially since my daughter is supporting. I have her back 100%. Stop human trafficking.
My name is Karen Bradford. I'm an educator, used to be in St. Louis Public, now in District 189. I'm an advocate for children, and children are always close to my heart. And I think one of the ways that we can help children is if we do what my sign says, pay equity for women.
My name is Kalia March, and I go to Clarice Elementary. This is my mom, Dr. March. And I made a song that says fence, fun safety for kids, and crazy for yeah.
So standing up might not be the best thing for me. It takes me a long time to get out of my seat, but I think I can speak loud enough so you can hear me. And I wanted to leave and make my sign because it's so simple. But my sign says, bullies need your help. Show a bully what love looks like. Stop bullying, spread love.
My name is Angela Glass, and I'm an educator. I am passionate about all children. I believe that every child deserves a champion. If they have a champion, then they can be successful and reach their full potential.
I'm Kim Strand, and I'm also an educator, and I've been with St. Louis Public Schools for 20 years, and I want to say that my objective, the sign I always carry, is that all eyes are open for our children, and that we have to speak fairness into their lives, we have to be advocates for them, we have to give them words of affirmation daily. There isn't anyone that doesn't deserve joy every day. Our integrity, open integrity for teaching, for developing them as important human beings in our world today. Equity is so important. We say that word every day, but it has to be held with honor for our children. And then they need character from us. They need our character to be strong so that it passes on to them. And a promise for their future and a passion. We have to have that passion every day to fuel us to move in the right way for them. So I've seen so many successes in my career as a teacher, and any loss is one loss too many. So I don't want to spend a moment in that mindset. I just always want to be there with all eyes open for our children, so.
My name is Kim Swenson, also an educator, a mom, and aunt to LGBT people in my family. So I hold my sign for trans rights and LGBTQ rights for students and adults, because love is love.
Okay, do you get any signs? Okay, so I'm Nicole Williams, and I'm an educator, and one of the things that I stand for 35 years is equity, particularly around math education.
When I was in third grade, I was told by my math teacher, based on this and my gender, that I would never achieve in mathematics. And I've always wished that I could see him today and say, I majored in math, I taught AP calculus, and yes, I can. And so I stand now for math education, particularly STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, because we know if we don't open up those opportunities for young people, particularly girls rock, when we talk about STEM and math education and coding, and boys rock. I have a grandson, 4 years old, in St. Louis Public Schools, so I'm a strong advocate for STEM education, and that's what I stand for. So I carry a sign for STEM education.
Yes. So there is power in our signs. Can I get you all to hold your signs just one last time before we go to our book? And the people carry signs. All right, so we're getting to my favorite part. We're going to have the author read. So some of you who have already bought the book, purchased the book, read the book, know the book backwards and forwards, but for some of you who have not, one of my favorite things to do, I have gone in several classrooms in my own district and been able to read. I'm not going to tell you which one, because I don't want to get that principal in trouble. Or myself, in case this thing that can't be done there. But my sister's going to help me power through the presentation. So I know you can't see my pictures from up here, but I want to make sure that everyone's able to see and move along. So if you go to the next one. This book is dedicated to all Black lives. Those lives that were taken, traded, misused, abused, and definitely those taken too soon. We all live for the day where men will not be judged by the color of their skin and valued or devalued by the merits of their heritage. We will continue to carry signs until skin color has no place. No, not another one. I heard my uncle shouting at the television again. I have seen and heard him do this rather often over the past few months. I can always see in his face that he is in pain, but I never see any injuries. I often wonder who these people are that he cries for. I slowly crept around the corner and walked up to him. Uncle, what's wrong? Why are you sad? With tear-filled eyes, he said, I'm not sad. I'm angry, and I'm frustrated, and I'm afraid for you each day. Afraid? I asked confused. Why are you afraid? What makes you angry? He put his hands on my shoulders and looked me in my eyes. He said, you are strong. You are powerful. You are a proud young Black male. Because of those very reasons, there are people who will fear, hate, and even target you with violence because of that. But why? I asked, now feeling sad and a little angry too. This is what has been happening in our world for a long time, he confessed. Even today, with all the marches, movements, protests, and laws, we, people of color, especially those of us who are Black men, continue to have to prove our worth and that we matter, and that our lives matter to this society. Understanding somewhat and still a little confused, I asked, so what can we do? What can I do to make it better for you and make it better for me when I am older? He looked at me and pulled me in tight for one of his many daily embraces. Yes, there is something we can do, but first, go get some rest. We have a busy day tomorrow. I'm going to need you. That night, I went to bed with jitters in my stomach. I was ready to help, but was nervous about what I would be able to do. What was this busy day going to be all about? How could I help? My uncle was a strong man, but he said he was going to need me. I guess strong people need people too. No worries, I thought as I closed my eyes and drifted into sleep. I will be ready. The next day, I woke up and rushed to get ready. As I opened the door to run downstairs, my uncle was already standing there about to open my door. He looked serious and told me to get my backpack ready with bottled water, a change of clothes, and a jacket. Then he told me to make sure I was wearing good, comfortable shoes. When I got downstairs in our kitchen, dining room, and living room, I saw many of his friends and other people I did not know. Some were men, some were women, and even other kids like me. There were big signs, small signs, colorful signs, even signs attached to sticks. I was fascinated reading many of the signs, but I did not fully know what many of them meant. There were many of them that read, "Black Lives Matter," in big bold letters. The words seemed to jump off the posters in ways I could not explain. As I read these signs, my mind began to wander. Why would they have to tell people that? Who are they making these signs for? Are there really people who believe that people who are Black don't matter? And why would they believe that? God made us all, right? He wouldn't make one people better than the others, would he? It's time to go. My uncle's voice interrupted my wonderment and refocused me on all the activity that was surrounding me. Minutes later, we were all in cars and headed to what this big day had been called. On this short and near silent drive, I noticed the buildings, the people, and the buzz of the traffic that all seemed to be going in the same place as we were. I was amazed when we exited the vehicles and met up with crowds of what seemed to be thousands of other people who looked just as focused and serious as my uncle and his friends. And these people also carried signs. I felt a rush of energy come over me. I knew this day was truly going to be an important day indeed. My eyes were filled with a cascade of signs. The signs had names on them that I never knew. Walter Scott, Jordan Edwards, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Isaiah Lewis, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, Philando Castile, Stefan Clark, Sandra Bland, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Dante Wright, just to name a few. My uncle could seemingly read the curiosity in my mind about who these people were, even though I did not mutter a word. All of these are names of the lives of people, Black people, wrongfully taken, lives taken away too soon. My uncle explained as he watched my eyes, reading in awe across all the signs. My uncle kneeled down to me and said, "Today, we speak up. Today, we stand up. Today, we lift up. We let this community, this government, this society, this world, and everyone in this universe know that we, Black people, matter." He stood up, and now he spoke out to the large crowd of people surrounding him. "We have to let people know that we want the same respect, opportunities, justice, consideration, rights, attention, freedom, liberty, and regard for our lives as everyone else," my uncle billowed. Uncle now looked to have even more strength and pride as he spoke boldly to the crowd. "We will march peacefully up and down the streets, joined by thousands in other cities and states across the nation until they listen." He kneeled down to me again, meeting me eye to eye, and confirmed, "And every one of these signs that you see with these names, I will teach you their stories. You will know their names. You will say their names. You will remember their legacies, and you will someday know why you are here now and why it is important for you to be here now. You matter. Your life matters. Your legacy matters. Black lives matter." "No peace," someone in the crowd shouted out. "No justice," was the person, I'm sorry. The chorus of voices echoed. This call and response rang out just as my uncle finished his words to me and stood up. And just like that, chants were shouted, songs were sang, and the crowd of people started walking. And the people carried signs. Signs held high, commanding colors, bold words, powerful messages, significant names, and undeniable meaning. And then I understood. This was more than about today. This was more than about this moment, more than about this time period. The people carry signs, so hopefully, one day, my kids and I won't have to. No justice, someone in the crowd shouted out. No peace, I boldly shouted. I felt my uncle squeeze my shoulder. He winked as he looked up at me. With that, he lifted me onto his shoulders as I lifted his megaphone. Then he shouted, all lives won't matter until Black lives matter, I shouted with pride. And now I carry a sign until one day others won't have to. So in closing, I realized that I forgot to let my good friend over here from the bank introduce me, as well as the young lady from the library that's going to come up and say a few words. So I got a little nervous and anxious, and I just jumped right out there, so I apologize. But hopefully they will be able to come at the end and say a few words on behalf of Left Bank Books and St. Louis Public Library. But I just want to say in closing that I am happy and proud to represent, as my soror Ruby said, you know, representation is important. We don't want just to be the single, lone, sole representation in the room. We hope that we advocate for each other, and those of us in positions to make those changes, that we'll step up and be able to do the things that will allow us not to keep carrying signs and be the only sole people and not to be the only perfect person that's representing. So this opportunity, writing has allowed me to do things like that, to be representative of those that look like me. I've gotten to do conference presentations, be keynote speakers at programs, misters of ceremonies, just to name a few. So I believe that it's through curiosity, people wanting to learn more about me, more about my book, more about people that look like me, is going to be the things that's going to help us break some of these barriers, start some of these conversations, and cure some of this racial divide that we see in so many places. So that's all I really have to share. I'm going to, in saying that, allow my friends to come up and say anything in closing that they may have to say. And for those who ask, yes, I will remain behind and sign your books. If you did not get a copy of the book, you're more than welcome to see my friends over here in the corner. They will help you out. But thank you again, preciously, for sharing just a little bit of your evening with me. I do appreciate you all standing up, and I appreciate and I value and respect the signs you carry. And again, hopefully one day we won't have to carry these signs.
All right, I just wanted to very quickly say a big thank you to Dr. Smith. This was like a great turnout. This was like the third, I believe, event we've had so far, and I'm not being biased at all, but this was the most fun. But my name is Jackie McGarrett. I'm the adult specialist here at the Schlafly Branch Library, and thank you so much for coming out. We're so happy to use this space again and be able to see people in person, get people back into the library. Please come get a library card if you don't have one. We have a Cardinals card now that you can, if that's your bag. Then if you already have a library card, you can come switch it. We have a lot of other really cute pictures now that you can get on your library card. We have a couple more Left Bank events coming up in the next couple weeks, and I will let Cliff from Left Bank tell you about that. Also wanted to let you know we have a program going on in all the St. Louis Public Libraries now where you can come get a free gun lock. I think we're out at our branch right now, but we should be getting more soon. But all the 17 St. Louis Public Library branches are giving out free gun locks. We're also going to be giving out free period packs if you know anybody that needs those. And we have more events coming up. This space is getting booked like crazy, so please go to slpl.org, go to the events page, and some of them you can just walk in, and some of them you register for. I'm going to hand it over to Cliff from Left Bank, and thank you so much again for coming.
Hello everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I am only up here to third everything that has already been said. It is fantastic of you to come out and support a wonderful local author, yes. Dr. LaTisha Smith. If everyone would just give her one more. It's a fantastic event. I am so happy to be a part of it. We have books for sale. We are just down the road. Come and see us literally any time. Give me a call, send me an email. Just walk into the store. We love dealing with and for the public. With that, I will bring it all to a close. Thank you so much.
Hold on, it's not working yet.
That's fine. I don't know how much. I'm trying to get up here first. It's not